There's been shifts where I literally thought I was going to like pass out. We couldn't go to the bathroom. We couldn't eat. We couldn't take care of ourselves. You're always going to be running on empty. Like so much was going on. We couldn't get what we needed to do done. Wow, this is nursing. If you're so high achieving that you're not taking care of yourself, that's going to lead you like even closer to burnout. And I'd say that with a little bit of hesitation, but also like this is a calling. So go over the top. How can I be a better nurse? How do I want to be a better nurse? Okay, why am I doing this? Having that one statement you can go back to in those hard times, I think that has helped me so much. You want to prevent hitting rock bottom as much as you can because it's not only a duty to yourself, it's a duty to your patients.
You seem like a very, very just dedicated person to what you do.
Everybody's on their own. Like, no, it is a community. It doesn't matter whose patients are assigned to who, where we could come to each other for help. We were bouncing off each other. We were feeding off each other's energies. That is nursing.
Do you feel like toxic productivity even exists in your field?
Honestly,
in this episode of What's Possible, we sit down with Chris Dierking. Chris is a very dedicated worker in the nursing field.
His journey has been very expansive and nonstop.
He continues to push himself to constantly be better, and we take a look at where his journey has been at so far, where he's at now, and where his journey is headed in the future.
In this conversation, we explore the line of dedication versus perfectionism. Chris also highlights how strength of community plays into starting out in your field. We also really dig deep into if toxic productivity exists amongst young adults in different backgrounds. Chris, welcome onto the show. How does it feel to be on your first ever podcast?
Oh my gosh, it feels awesome. I feel so cool. I feel professional, guys.
Okay, well,
thanks for having me.
Because we are barely professional.
No, this is a jinx.
I don't even know, bro. But anyway, Chris, let's jump right into it. You come from, I don't know how to word it, but maybe the medical field background, right?
Yes, the medical field background. I started as a firefighter EMT.
Yeah.
I just hung around the station when I was like 15, 16, and then, some of the guys, they, included me in training, and now I'm here.
That's
as a
crazy.
nurse.
That actually is crazy.
You were how old when you were in New York?
15 is when I started hanging around the station,
Yeah.
16, 17, 18. I might be getting the times wrong, but I just remember being interested in firefighting for a very long time.
That's crazy. So a 15-year-old firefighter is what you're saying?
I wouldn't say a firefighter at that time.
But
I'd say more of someone who's very interested and knew their way around the equipment and stuff.
So what was that experience like being around those guys and learning all that stuff?
It was a very, very cool thing as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. It made me feel very like professional. I was like, wow, I'm growing up. Like, I get to see all these, like just the background of firefighting that nobody gets to see, like around the station, what equipment they have, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's really
That's
cool.
awesome though.
No,
so you grew up in New York, right?
Yeah, I did.
How did you end up here? How did you go from New York to Kansas City?
Yeah.
My dad was an accountant in New York, and recently he was diagnosed with something, so we decided to move back here to Kansas City. But they've lived here their whole lives, and like apart from, being in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. How did you being, like your experience in New York kind of factor into your, how do I word it, like nursing field here?
I guess in New York I had a lot of patient interaction. So coming here to Kansas City and working the jobs that I've worked, it made it easier because I had already had so much experience dealing with patients that like I got to start my career here in Kansas City, like knowing some things and not having to be so awkward. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No, that's huge.
So a lot of people have misconceptions that nursing is like Grey's Anatomy. So
nursing is not like Grey's Anatomy in the slightest. I can tell you, I was one of those people who was like, oh, Grey's Anatomy. First of all, nursing is chaotic, but it is not that chaotic. Mm-hmm. A lot of the cases we see are not these like insane once in a lifetime cases. We get some of those cases, but like, especially like, they portray it to be such romance and drama, and really it's like not like that at all. There's a lot more community. There's no romance in the community. And also nursing is very much like, I don't know. I've often convinced myself I had like C. diff, which is a type of disease, instead of like coming home and having romance. So yeah, I don't know how to explain that, but that's
not like Grey's.
It's not like Grey's at all. No,
that's crazy. Okay, so I have like a follow-up question on that. Do you feel like Gen Z, like through that kind of media, has become like super desensitized to like, I don't even know how to word it, but like maybe like violence or like injuries or anything like that?
Or even death.
I think it has an effect on. I think it has more of an effect on like we've been desensitized to. I guess it's changed the way that we act in the healthcare facility.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was desensitized to the injuries and stuff, but it does like put out this image that like you can just be. Like, I think in Grey's Anatomy and a lot of these shows, they are inappropriate in the show, and I think that sometimes carries over into how people act in the hospital.
I didn't even think about that.
But a lot of it, I mean, I wouldn't say people are desensitized, because seeing it in person is a whole different
that makes
vibe than
sense.
Seeing it, on a TV show.
Yeah. Okay, this is going to sound really bad, but I honestly thought the answer of that was going to be opposite, because, like, I thought about, like, Instagram Reels and all that stuff. Like, you see car crashes, bro.
So crazy.
Yeah, and so I was like, I don't know if, like, people would be more desensitized to that stuff, but that makes sense. Like, actually seeing it in person, being like, whoa, this is way different than just seeing it on a computer screen or on a phone screen.
I think the Instagram Reels is a different scenario. I think, like, it does desensitize you in that way, but, like, that's because it's real. But like you don't actually know how that feels. Like you can feel a certain emotion when you see it on Instagram Reels or Grey's Anatomy. But when you're in person because you're not only dealing with the patient, you're dealing with the family. Yeah. You're dealing with other doctors. You're dealing with like real life. You have no second to like hide behind a screen and be like, guys, what the heck is this? Like you're there in the flesh. So it's a very different like kind of experience.
Yeah. No, I've actually never thought about that.
Honestly,
actually, that's crazy.
So, okay, like talking about the desensitization, do you feel like maybe, since you are the one seeing all of this in person, do you feel like you've personally been desensitized? And like, do you think that is a negative thing for you, or do you think maybe that's just kind of a part of it?
Well, I wouldn't say that I've been it's kind of a 50-50 for me. I would like to be desensitized, but I also have had conversations with my coworkers, and like sometimes it is okay to cry with your patient. I think it needs to be normalized, because like nurses and patient care techs, CNAs, firefighters, EMTs, like yes, we are in a place where we are the professional that people are looking to for help, but like I've had a coworker who worked on the oncology unit in a hospital, and that's when they're working with patients who have cancer, and that is a very sad scenario. Yeah, and, sure. When you see the same patient over and over again, you're going to have a relationship with them. Obviously, it needs to stay professional, but, like, you can't just hide those emotions. Like, I think the most beautiful experience as, like, a nurse or a CNA is to cry with your patient. I think it's, like, obviously the right time and stuff is, a key factor. But, like, share, because like sometimes people who are patients just need a friend,
of course.
So I would say that like that part of desensitizing I think shouldn't happen, but like there is a big worry about bringing work home, and so like in that case, yes, I try to make
separate.
sure that
Yes, that makes sense. So do you feel like there's ever been like a specific moment that you can call out where it's like, this is what you felt like nursing was, like this was the definition of nursing, whether that's like really positive or a little bit of both, of negative?
I remember this one shift. I work night shift, so a lot of people think that it's not as crazy. Night shift is just as crazy, if not worse, but I of course am biased. But there's this one shift where just nobody had easy patients, and I'd say that with a little bit of hesitation, because they're having the worst day of their life, they're having the worst week of their life. They're not going to be easy. Nothing's going to be easy. But like, it just felt like so much was going on. We couldn't get what we needed to do done, or it felt like that at least. And it just felt like we couldn't sit down. I usually don't sit down anyways, but like it literally felt like we couldn't go to the bathroom. We couldn't eat. We couldn't take care of ourselves, which obviously made it hard to take care of our patients.
Yeah.
But what made me think like, wow, this is nursing, is just the fact that our floor had such a community where we could come to each other for help. We were bouncing off each other. We were feeding off each other's energies. And the people who really pulled through and tried to stay positive, those are the people that carried like our whole team. And just like coming together as a floor like that is nursing. Nursing isn't, letting everybody like everybody's on their own. Like, no, it is a community. It doesn't matter whose patients are assigned to who. Like, it matters that we come together. And I think that was like when I realized like this is nursing.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That is honestly a great answer.
Thank you.
I know we talked about having to make like kind of impactful decisions. How do you manage the weight of making impactful decisions like that?
because I worked as a CNA. I'm still working as a CNA, so I don't really have that authority to make those impact. It's not that common in my position, but I have had to like walk in on a patient and make a split-second decision. You know, there's been times where I've walked in and the patient is unresponsive, they're not breathing, no pulse, and I've had to press the code button and start CPR. And that is definitely something that never gets easier. I mean, it becomes a routine, and you learn the muscle like movements to go through that.
Yeah.
But it really just comes to always making sure that I'm on top of my training, doing my modules for the hospital, like, and also like being confident in myself and being confident in the team around me, that like I know when I press that code button and when I start doing CPR, there's going to be a whole team behind my back working to help this patient.
Yeah.
And I think like in those times, like, I don't know, it just like, just knowing that there's a team behind me and just relying on my training is really what gets me through those moments.
That's huge.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. What has been the biggest challenge you've faced working in the nursing field? We kind of talked about how it doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is trying not to, or trying to prevent or lessen burnout, and then also figuring out how to limit bringing work home. I think like the nursing field is a very, very, very emotional field, a lot because we're dealing with a ton of patients. Like I think I had at least 10 to 12 patients each shift who had their own problems, who had their own life experiences, and every single one of those was put onto me. And I love that. That's my job. But also like there are some cases that really stick with you. And so like on the bringing work home side, like there would be some times where I'd just have to sit in my car and, you know, just cry it out because, you know, it was hard to deal with that. As far as like the burnout stuff goes, burnout is very easy. Burnout is easier than people think it is, and it's worse than people think it is. Especially juggling school with nursing, I did not realize how much that would affect me.
I bet, yeah.
But stuff that helps with that is kind of just like letting myself live life, do the stupid things, go to work out, play video games, watch Netflix, like do something other than dealing with emotions in the moment. And also letting myself feel like if there was a shift that I needed to just sit in my car and cry after, I'll let myself do that instead of being like, well, you know, you're a CNA, you're supposed to be tough, you're not supposed to take on these emotions. Like we're human, we have to. That's part of the, you know,
very true
recovery.
Very true. So when you're in those moments where you're sitting in your car and you're going through it, do you ever question, am I on the right path? Can I handle this? You know what I mean?
Most definitely. I think everybody in the healthcare field questions this job at some point. But like what I've come to learn is that, and especially through the people I've talked to, my coworkers, you have a calling to this field. It really, obviously the studying matters, obviously the dedication matters, but like people have a calling to deal or to take care of people. And so like just remembering those patients that like really thanked me. Like I remember I had this one patient who we just, for some reason we weren't doing enough to like, or we were doing a lot, but it didn't feel like we were doing a lot to help their pain. They just were always in pain. And I remember sitting down with them and just like having a chat. We were just having a chat. We were talking about just random stuff, and they thanked me after that. And they said, thank you, I just needed a friend now. And so those moments like where my patients tell me how much I've made an important impact on their life, that even if I can just make them smile, like it's moments like those where I'm like, okay, this is worth it. Like I'm so happy to be a part of this.
You know, would you say those moments kind of keep you grounded?
Yes.
Because I feel like nursing can probably feel very larger than life when you're dealing with so many lives. You know what I mean?
Yes, it definitely keeps me grounded, and it reminds me why I'm there. Like it reminds me why I show up to work. It reminds me why I go over the top sometimes to try to help my patients. Like it most definitely grounds me. Yeah. I know that there's been shifts where I literally thought I was going to like pass out because of how hard our whole floor was working. And like through those moments, I'm like, just keep going, just keep doing it. And like, it sounds cliche, but it really helps
it's
you.
It's cliche for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, like it really does help. Like you can put yourself through a lot more than you think you can, and the patients just make it that much worth it. So it's like, you know, I just keep doing it, and I see the way that my patients react, and then it's, you know.
Yeah. Do you ever feel pressure to constantly be proving yourself
Yes.
And you can, that also kind of ties into being like fairly young. You are 20, about to turn 21. So do you ever feel like you're constantly having to prove yourself to like older nurses, older doctors, older patients?
Oh my gosh, yes. Especially being a CNA, we're almost at the bottom of the food chain. You know, we see our patients a lot more than the nurses do, and the nurses see their patients a lot more than the doctors do. And so when I have to come to my nurse, one of my like non-negotiables is that I'm always making sure that I'm advocating for my patients' well-being and health. If I see something that my nurse maybe hasn't caught or just something that I've observed, I always make sure to go to my nurse. And there are some nurses, and I'm not trying to like call anybody out here, but there's some nurses that they look at a CNA, they're like, you don't have the qualifications, you know, you don't know as much. And like, that is true, but like, I think like, I mean, especially coming from my position, I've seen like, I go in probably like every 30 minutes to take care of this patient. The nurse passes meds, they check it, but like, I feel like I've seen this patient a lot more than that nurse has. And so like when I bring something up, I want it to at least be considered. And so I'm always trying to I feel like I'm always trying to prove myself.
Yeah, you're the one that's like building rapport with your patients.
And then on top of that, the doctors, like there have definitely been doctors who have very high egos, and that makes it very difficult, especially for the nurses that I've worked with, because a patient will be in a situation and the doctor maybe only comes in, you know, just to make the diagnosis and to give the prescriptions, but like they don't see what the nurses and the CNAs see. So trying to make sure that you're advocating for your patient's health and being heard, like that definitely makes you feel like you're pressured.
For sure. So, okay, we kind of talked about like, you know, the doctor role and like the conflicts that can be there. What does, if anything, what does like the mentoring role look like for you? Like, do you have a mentor in these kind of spaces? Because, you know, in creativity, I feel like there's always like a mentor. So for you, what does that look like?
For me, it looks like, so I am somebody who obviously I'm going to nursing school in the future, and as a CNA, I felt like it was my obligation, since I want to be a nurse, to ask my nurses as many questions as possible. Obviously not harassing them with questions, but like I had this awesome nurse who I worked with over the summer, and she would make an effort to, like, if she was putting in a Foley catheter, to actually let me be there. Obviously not to do anything, but she gave me these opportunities to like watch these procedures and watch these, like how they do stuff. I got to help with wound care one time, and like just those moments, they really, really shape how you see the hospital and like how things are run.
I bet.
And so like those moments, or like just feeling included like that, helps me so much in this career, because then I'm like, wow, like I'm gonna do this later, and like now, you know.
Yeah.
But those are things that are mentor.
So, okay, how, like, have you ever felt like, you know, or if there was one thing that you could have the whole world understand about nursing that they maybe don't, what would that one thing be?
I'd want people to understand how important community is. A lot of times in the hospital, I've found that there's high school type drama. You know, a lot of people's pride and egos get in the way. And I understand that I'm coming from a position where I am the bottom of the food chain. I am a CNA. But I think in healthcare, when you're dealing with people's lives and you're dealing with people on their worst day, and you're dealing with one of the most chaotic work fields that there probably is, community is so important. And we've all started at some place in this beginner spot, whether you were a patient care tech, whether you're a CNA, like you've all started from somewhere. And I think like it is your duty as an RN, it is your duty, maybe not as a doctor, because that's a little bit more qualified. Yeah, that is a lot more life or death. But like when you, basically what I'm trying to say is, when you have the RN title next to your name, you also have the CNA title next to your name. That is like, it goes hand in hand. Obviously as a nurse you can do more, but like it is your duty to teach the people below you. And so like a lot of times CNAs in the workplace will have questions, and the nurses will be like, nope, you should have known this. Like you should, you know, and they don't welcome these questions. And it's crazy, because I'm like, we need to be in a spot where we're helping each other, because like your job is hard, my job is hard, you know, the patient's not having a good time.
Me,
like,
you're helping the patient.
Like,
hello.
We all have the same goal here. Why isn't, you know, and so like, I don't know. I remember I was training this one CNA and they were terrified to go to the nurse. And I'm like, these are things that shouldn't be happening. We have this one goal to help this patient.
Yeah.
Why are we not allowed to,
Sure. And everybody's always learning. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
why not just help everybody?
even the
always
nurses
learn?
are still learning. Even the
Exactly.
doctors are learning. And I'm like, guys, let's make it easier and be a community. And
Literally.
I was fortunate enough to be on a floor where we all helped each other in any situation. I didn't feel like I was scared to go to people, but there have definitely been workplaces where I've been like, I feel like I'm on my own.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
gotta be the worst feeling, I bet.
It builds confidence, but it's not fun when you're dealing with a patient's life. I'm not going to
better
lie.
on the other end, but
Yeah.
that's so crazy. Okay, so shifting kind of into the workload of being a nurse. Me and Yuliana come from a creative field.
Creative field.
She does film, I do graphic design, all that stuff, right? For us, there's a thing called toxic productivity because, we kind of can take our work home with us and just be working on
Very easy to.
one editing project forever, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like, it's so much work. There's so much to be done. But at the end of the day, it's not as serious as nursing or anything like that. There's no stakes like that. So I want to know, for you, you always have to constantly be going, constantly be taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Do you feel like toxic productivity even exists in your field?
I don't think it does for a multitude of reasons because while there is burnout, which I would say is equal to toxic productivity, but if you are a good nurse, if you are a good CNA, you want to make sure that you're not a perfectionist because there's if you're so high achieving that you're not taking care of yourself, then that's going to lead you even closer to burnout. So making sure that you're taking care of yourself, but also this is a calling. So go over the top, be that CNA who does the most, make those welcome baskets, do the little work that, do the work that people don't really want to do, help set up if you see something that's messy, help clean it up. Going over the top like that, I would not consider that toxic because again, this field is so related to teamwork that
You're kind of nothing without it.
Yeah, but I don't think I think a lot of it goes into taking care of yourself so that you can take care of other people.
No, and I loved the way I watched your face literally light up as you were saying, do that extra stuff, do all this, because you seem like a very, very just dedicated person to what you do. So I want to know how do you what's the difference between dedication and productivity? What's the line there,
I think dedication has a lot to do with considering your patients. If you see a patient's room is messy and the CNA before you didn't pick up, take that extra 5 minutes and clean up the trash in that room. Because I know if I was a patient and there was trash in my room, I would feel so sick. I would feel even worse.
Yeah.
Do those extra steps and consider the patient. Whereas productivity is more I guess over studying, but that's not really a thing in nursing. I feel like productivity and dedication go hand in hand in nursing because you always want to learn, but you always want to be doing things for your patient.
Sure.
I don't know how to explain that.
No, we get it. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. So what keeps you going knowing that hard days, hard shifts, hard nurses, hard patients are always going to be coming?
I love my patients, okay? You don't understand. For me, the job, the patients make the job worth it. Just seeing them happy or seeing them recover or seeing them, the progress that they're making. Because I worked on the med-surg floor, so we want to have patients go home a lot better than they came to the hospital. And so seeing them take their first steps after surgery, those little moments that wouldn't really mean anything to a doctor or something, they mean so much to me. And I'm oh my gosh, my patient's doing it. Yes, let's go.
That's
those
That's
thinking back on
great.
those moments, I'm I don't care about the bad nurses. I don't care about the mean people.
Makes it all worth it.
And even the mean people, I feel a lot of people, especially in the field, we see people who are in rough shape. We see people who are angry. And the best thing in that scenario is to not take it personally. We are in a field where there are people that are having their worst days of their life.
Actually the worst pain they've actually
legitimately
ever experienced.
the worst pain, the worst experience. A hospital's not fun for anybody, but just being able to be that person who can understand. It is hard sometimes, but just my overall goal thinking back. There was in my nursing class, there's something called a philosophy of nursing, which I think even if you're assigned to do it, every nursing student should be doing that, because on those harder days, you can come back to this philosophy and being like, okay, why am I doing this? What am I here for? What are my goals through nursing? What are my personal goals? What are my goals for the change of healthcare? Like, how can I be a better nurse? How do I want to be a better nurse? Yeah. And just going back, having that one statement that goes back, like you can go back to in those hard times, I think that has helped me so much. Yeah. And like, I low-key didn't think it would help me, because I'm like, oh, this is a school assignment. Like
the dumb gen ed class.
You know what I mean? I'm like, this is just an intro to nursing class. Like, what am I doing here? But like, I remember this is like my first shift after this class, and I was like, oh my gosh, this shift is really hard. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know I might quit. And then I was like, okay, Chris, just like go back to this assignment. I went back and I read it, and I was like, why did this help, guys? What?
No, why did they
I actually did it, and it actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dead.
Shout out to my nursing teacher for that. You're a G.
So, go ahead.
No, you can go.
Going back to that, though, I just want to add one more little comment. Like, a hospital is a rough place. Everybody's always having not always, but, everybody's having a hard day. But it's all about finding those little gems, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just looking into, like, what you can and finding the joy in that.
Find it, like, when people say romanticize your life, I think you can do that as a nurse.
That's where you got to
romanticize the moments as a nurse, because there are going to be shifts where you want to quit. You will literally be on the edge of like typing that 2 weeks paragraph. Yeah. But like, if you romanticize it, if you find these little gems and like you like look for the good in these situations, oh my gosh, it changes your perspective, and it lessens burnout because you're actively trying to stay positive.
For sure. Yeah. So everybody out there that's listening, forget about romanticizing on TikTok, forget about romanticizing the meal that you just ate or whatever. Romanticize the things that matter, okay? Okay, I guess maybe a meal could matter. I don't know, bro. I don't know.
No, you don't understand. There have been so many meals after, like, during my shift, I always get, like, this is this little something I did in the hospital. Like, I would go down to the, like, dining thing, and I would get these little, like, gummy bears. And I'm like, okay, these will be a pick-me-up during the shift. Why did that work? They were healthy gummy bears, okay, guys? I wasn't, like, being big-backed. Oh my God. Like, just finding little things throughout the shift. Like, I know there's some of the nurses that I worked with who would, like, have a coffee at every, like at the same time every shift, and like that was their pickup. So also finding a pickup can help you during the shifts, because sometimes we need that, especially us night shift nurses.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Kind of going off of that, what are some habits that help you, like, not like unwind, but like kind of keep you calm? Like, do you do anything during the shift to like...
The gummy bear thing was definitely something that helped, because whenever I had time, now sometimes I wouldn't have time to do this, and it wasn't a make or break, but it was definitely a helpful thing. I also really like whenever we have time to just talk with my coworkers, because like just...
That's the best.
Talking, no, I love just like when all of our patients are asleep, and obviously we're picking up call lights, guys, don't think that I'm unprofessional, because I'm not. I try not to be. But like just sitting and talking with my like nurses and just talking about life, or talking about like they get me excited for nursing school. Like it literally, the bonding with coworkers helps so much. And then like during those harder times where we just ran a code, or a patient passed away, or something big and sad happened, just like having that debrief with your coworkers, because I think like when you build that sort of family bond, you can get through anything in that shift.
For sure. That makes sense.
No, that's very true.
With your coworkers, is it like a diverse age range, or are you mostly...
Yes. There's like the older generation of nurses, there's the nurses who are in their like 20s and 30s, and then there's patient care techs who are a whole range, like from 18 to like, so we do see people, or at least my coworkers, come from all walks of life. So like, I don't know. It's nice to see that, because you get a whole range of advice and perspectives from things.
No,
what does that bond with your coworkers look like outside of work? Is it a thing, or is it mainly just kind of when you're in the moment?
Yeah, it's not really a thing. Like I have two friends who I was, one's a nurse and one's a patient care tech, and we stay in touch on Facebook. Yeah. And just that, like, I don't know, just that little
each other's posts.
Yeah, just stuff like that.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, because when you're in that hospital, it's like, this is the time, we got to be together. And then when you're out, sometimes you just need to have that casual.
So kind of back on top. Has there ever been a personal experience you've had? It could be in like personal, like in your life or in the hospital, that has like reinforced your decision on continuing down this healthcare path?
There's been obviously a couple, but one that really stuck out to me was this one patient who I had. My dad has Parkinson's, and so that's been something I've been scared of to deal with in the healthcare field because obviously I don't want to take it personally. Yeah. But I had this Parkinson's patient, and they were a little bit more advanced than my father was. And so, or my father is, sorry guys, he's not dead. Mr. Dierking is here, guys. Oh my goodness. And so, like, just seeing it developed my character a lot more than I thought, because I don't think I always treat my patients the same. I give them the same high quality care. But for that one, I felt more emotionally connected to, which I had to like stop and be like, Chris, this is just a patient. Like, this is not your dad. You don't have to worry about it. But like, it gave me, first of all, more knowledge on how I can take care of my parents who are aging, which is a very scary thing at the age of 20. And then also, it just like, it just built my character up. It helped me figure out how to separate work and home life. And that I think is very important in nursing, because you do see a lot of things that normally people don't see. And so being able to separate that saves you so much heartache and mental breakdowns and all that stuff.
There's a lot to be learned in that kind of situation.
Oh yeah, that is like one of the things that like nursing school doesn't teach you, pre-nursing doesn't teach you. Like, you have to learn that face like head on, and that's really tough. But
so on those days where it's like kind of harder, I know we've gone over this quite a bit, but like, what do you do to push through those feelings and kind of, when you're overwhelmed, what do you do to get over that?
A lot of the times I'll use distractions, because if I sit and think and let myself feel all the time, it just breaks you as a person. But so a lot of the times I'll like go to the gym. A lot of the times sometimes I'll come home. I always take a shower when I come home from a shift. But like sometimes if I'm like feeling extra like upset, I'll just take a longer shower and just like sit and like,
self-care.
Get myself refreshed, like, self-care. A lot of the times I like cooking after my shifts, because it just gives me, you have to focus when you cook. Yeah. And so like,
you like the sense of control.
Yes. I like to like completely revert my mind into something different.
Totally.
No, for sure.
Sometimes I do let myself feel though, but
You get off a shift at work. What is your ideal routine? Like, everything went according to plan. This is what you want to do today. Like, what is your ideal routine?
So my shift ends at 7 a.m. Sometimes, because we have to give report, I'll usually get home around maybe like I'll leave the hospital around 7:30. A lot of times, because it's breakfast time, I like to get some food in. So if it's been a decent, like regardless of if it's been a decent shift or a crappy one, I'll go and maybe get like Dunkin' or Starbucks, just so I can like have that time to like not come home just yet in case I need some time to like debrief or whatever.
Decompress.
And then I'll come home, I take a nice long shower, I do my skincare routine, because I feel like when I wake up for that next shift, I feel refreshed, I feel clean, whatever. And then I sleep forever. I sleep until maybe like, I usually give myself like 2 to 3 p.m. to like sleep until I'll wake up. I get a nice, I guess it would like be considered a lunch or a dinner. I don't even know what that would be called. Time like is not a thing when you work night shift. You forget what time it is. So I just want you to know this routine is very like, it's muscle memory. It's no timing. But I'll wake up, get some nice healthy food in. I think one thing that like nurses should really strive for, a lot of us survive off of caffeine, but like taking that step to like put nutritional value. Yes, like implementing that into your diet, having healthy, clean foods, those like help you a lot more than you think.
All right, Chris, to kind of like wrap up this very first episode, I want to know just kind of overall in general, for somebody who's running on empty in any kind of work they do, what would your piece of advice be to them?
My piece of advice would first be use your resources, because a lot of people, the hospital offers, first of all, they offer resources if you have trauma. There's a very good support system, hopefully, in your hospital. You also have friends and family, but just use those resources as much as possible, because one day you're going to figure out that these resources are actually helpful. My second tip would be to take care of yourself. You're always going to be running on empty, and you want to prevent like hitting rock bottom as much as you can. You want to prevent burnout. So just making sure you're on top of yourself, because it's not only a duty to yourself, it's a duty to your patients. You can't take care of anybody if you're not able to take care of yourself, and if you're not up to par with your health, your mental health, and all that stuff. And then my third piece of advice would probably be love the career. Just do it. Just like have fun in your career. Nursing is not always fun, but you know, I love to learn, so always making sure I'm doing the trainings, like going to like the little simulations, like, you know, go to those things. Have fun in this career as much as you can, you know?
Yeah.
That's great advice.
Great answer. All right, well, Chris, if there is anything else you have, let us know now, because I think we're nearing the end of the episode here.
Guys, go follow me on Instagram. It's Christopher Dierking _. You already know. You'll see some firefighting pictures there. Thank you guys for having me on this podcast. It's been a really cool opportunity.
Of course.
You guys should go subscribe and follow.
It's been very fun to have you on as our very first guest.
I feel honored to be the first guest.
Yes. No, it's a big deal. It is a huge deal. So
No, when he pitched this to me, you were probably one of the first people I thought of.
yeah.
Yep.
No
There goes my
off.
ego.
So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much again for joining, Chris. We hope to cross paths with you again in the future sometime.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right. We're good.
We're good. Yeah.